Oh, actually, and this might fit into our conversation at some point. But,
Okay.
But I've been saying this thought lately is I think that I just encourage everyone to pursue truth.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I just call the truth Jesus,
Mm-hmm.
right? So if truth was a person, it had a nickname.
Mm-hmm.
I'd be like, that's truth over there. I'd be like, oh, who? Oh, Jesus?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, right? So in
Mm-hmm.
my mind, if you go out and pursue truth, right, you just want to know
Mm-hmm.
what it is, I think you'll land at Jesus.
I believe so.
And I think you'll land at Jesus. Here's where I think it happens. I think if you really go out to look for truth,
Mm-hmm.
then at some point you will ask yourself the question of, how should I treat other people?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that right there is where Jesus comes in, right?
Mm-hmm.
And because he seems to be the only person I can find in all of human existence that nobody has a problem with, right? Nobody goes, well, Jesus did this wrong, right?
Mm-hmm.
Nobody does that,
Mm-hmm.
right? Even other religions, right?
Yeah.
The Muslims will be like, he's a prophet. The Hindus will be like, he's a demigod. The Buddhists will be like, oh, he was Buddha again, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
like nobody has a problem with the way Jesus chose to treat people.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, that feels like an insane statement to me,
Mm-hmm.
right? My own family has problems with me,
Mm-hmm.
right? This dude came and nobody has a problem. Oh, that's truth.
Mm-hmm.
You'll find you eventually have to ask yourself that.
Mm.
And then when you ask yourself that and you start saying, how do I know how to treat people?
Yeah.
You end at Jesus.
Yeah, because I've never heard anybody say anything negative about Jesus, even non-believers. They will say things like, "Oh, I hate Christianity, but I love Jesus stuff."
Right.
Like, you know what I'm saying?
Right. That's what I'm saying.
But every other like religious figure, you could point something negative.
Yeah,
like,
I didn't like that his wives. I didn't like the way he did whatever.
Yeah.
But Jesus, no one ever has. And I'm like, yo, does that not blow anybody else's mind? To me, that's the craziest thing ever.
Yeah.
That there was a person, right? Like, he was a person,
Mm-hmm.
right? And even if you don't think he's a person, you say he's a written character. I say, yeah, but nobody has a problem with anything.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody.
Yeah.
That's got to be the truest thing I've ever heard in my life. Dude.
Yeah.
Like,
everybody tends to agree with the truth.
Right. And that's why I'm like, oh, I don't care what people are looking for, right?
Mm-hmm.
If they're looking for truth, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if they start saying, man, I'm searching for beauty,
Mm-hmm.
I'm searching for expression and whatever, and I say, you're looking for the truth of what that means, right?
Mm-hmm.
They'd be like, yeah. I'm like, oh, keep going.
Yeah.
Keep going, right? And for some reason, it feels like a lot of times we are, and this actually goes to our conversation, actually. I guess we're starting. I don't know. Nate will just...
Is it recorded?
Okay. Nate will just help us. But this goes to our conversation, right? And kind of what we're talking about today. But that's why I personally don't have a problem with anybody looking for truth in anything if they're genuinely looking, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's one of the things that, leads to our question, right? Is can/should, right? Can/should Christians look for truth in other religions?
So existing Christians, people who are already Christians. Because you say Christians look for truth.
Oh, great question. I think I'm open either way. All right. Yeah, I think I'm open either way. What do you think? Yeah.
Yeah. I guess I'll probably tell a little bit of my.
Can you do that and then ask? I would love to know that distinction you just made there.
Oh, okay.
Like,
yeah. Because you had just said, can Christians look for truth in other religions?
Mm-hmm.
And so it made me think like, well, if you identify as a Christian, you believe you've already found the truth. So what are you looking for?
Oh.
So what else are you looking for?
Interesting. Okay.
And I think I fit that category, though.
Okay. You fit that one.
I feel like I fit.
All right,
I have fit that category.
Yeah, tell me.
So I love to study everything.
Okay.
Like,
everything.
Everything, man. And
I figured you're a thinker, a learner, man. And that's really, honestly, I've always admired that about you. I want to just tell you that before we get deep into this, man. Like, I've always admired the way you think. Specifically, I know we haven't had a lot of interactions, but I've watched your spoken word. And the thing about spoken word is it's a beautiful art because its goal is to teach, right? So in order for someone to teach, they have thought on some things, right? And I love the way that your teaching comes out in that word because I'm like, it means this brother he's put some deep thought into these things before he can bring them out in the way he brings them out. So I want to just make sure
I appreciate that. Yeah. Most of my poems are products of me having long moments of thought.
Yeah.
That's and I think I think way too much. So I overthink, and then I cause myself.
I've been told that.
that.
I've been called that too. I've been told that too. Yeah.
But it's so fun to me, just especially when you finally figure something out.
Oh my gosh,
it's like it's a rush. Like, I figured it out.
Okay, so then you would probably follow this one then. All right, because I said to my son, I think most people don't think of it this way. I said, but for me, I don't see much of a difference between imagining and thinking. Right. They feel very much the same, right? And so in my mind, everybody's like, you think too much. I'm like, I don't think I'm doing it like you're doing it then.
Nah.
Right? Because it feels like work to you, but it feels like
it's fun for me.
Endless adventure, right?
Yes. Endless adventure, man.
Adventure,
and
right? So
my imagination is very, very active.
Yeah.
I have a very active imagination. That was another thing that led to kind of what I held on to coming out of my deconstruction.
Okay, yeah. Tell me about it. I'm sorry.
But so going back to where I said I fit in that box, the box of Christians looking in other religions. I was telling someone I've traveled like the length and breadth of this Christian experience so far. I've been to very conservative Black churches. I've been part of Catholic congregations.
Okay.
I've been part of Unitarian congregations. I've been part of non-denominational, your Calvary chapels, your more Reformed leaning churches. And where I'm currently at, Koinonia, it is I would say
it's a unique church.
It's unique. Yeah. You can't really call us like conservative, like Baptists or anything like that. We're not Baptist because we had left the Baptist denomination, so we're non-denominational. We're just an enigma. I'm gonna just say that.
I think that's what I like that right now, because if you have the label, unfortunately, right now in the world we live in, it could work against you.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like so, you probably just call yourselves Koinonia.
Yeah. We're just
Koinonia.
Yeah, just people that love God trying to figure it out.
Just love God.
That's all it is,
out, bro.
And so. But with that, I found myself in a very mundane brand of Christianity, where everything became head knowledge. And this is the part of thinking that I don't like. I love thinking when I can connect it to my emotions and how I feel. But if it's just thinking for thinking's sake, if I'm thinking about something I can't resonate or connect with, that's when it becomes work for me.
Yeah.
And my faith became
work.
It became work. It became feeling like I had to have all of the right answers all of the time. I began shutting down that imaginative part of me, which is just innate to who I am. And God became more of a theological topic than God.
Than an experience.
Than experiencing a person, you know? And, you know, I would always say, I have a relationship, but it didn't feel like a relationship. Actually, it felt more like an abusive relationship because it was a God, and I realized now it wasn't God at all that I really was following to a degree. It was
the image of what people told you God was.
What people and you know, and I think, and that's gonna carry people for a season, you know, but you're inevitably gonna hit a wall to where you gotta figure out who God is in your life. How is he showing up and how is he revealing himself in your life? It's just like with my son, like my word is gold. No matter what I say, I cannot be wrong about anything. And
that's a good place to be at, man.
I mean,
I got teenage girls.
I miss it, you know, you know, and I know that's going to change, but he's going to get to a point where, okay, what dad told me is not really meshing with my world.
Right.
So he has to figure out life and make his own decisions for himself. And I got to that place. I was like, man, the scriptures say God is this. I'm not experiencing this. When I read Genesis to Revelation, I'm not experiencing this God.
Yeah.
When I get he may not show up in a whirlwind like Job, but hey, Lord, I ain't against it. You know, like, and that's when kind of my deconstruction really started again. Well, not again, but again from my previous conversation. It was when I see how Jesus communed with the Father, I don't feel that in my life. When I see how the disciples and apostles and just all the stories, like God is showing up in a very real and tangible way. And God now is a classroom syllabus for me, you know? And so I went through a very rough time in my marriage with my wife, and we separated for a season. And usually that's when people transform, when they go through darkness. And that's when that's usually when God shows up.
He likes those moments.
Because I don't know why he chooses. It's another one of my things. Like, how come you couldn't show up when things were great? Like, why did you?
He's like, I was there. You couldn't see me. You were looking at other stuff.
That's it. You know, it's like I was there and I was trying to talk to you, but usually this
you couldn't see me.
Allows you to see me. So, anxiety was going through the roof, and I just needed something to calm down. And so I turned to mindfulness, mindfulness meditation, which it was just I had no idea it was the tie to
that alone. A bunch of Christians already have a problem with, right?
Yeah.
Which feels weird to me.
When I first found it, I didn't know it was tied to like religions and stuff. I thought it was just a coping thing to manage emotions. I wasn't even thinking of it. It is.
I think it's just a truth.
Yeah.
It's just a truth.
Yeah.
And and so we get mad at it. I think Jesus taught it, Matthew 6:34.
Yeah.
Yo, man, do not worry about tomorrow.
Yeah.
For tomorrow will worry about itself. Like,
yeah.
Yo, live in this one.
Yeah.
Live in this moment. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. You see a lot of, I'm getting ahead of myself. Okay. So turn to mindfulness. I was practicing it, meditating. You know, I started seeing a change and being able to cope with separation, because it was one of those separations we weren't sure how the marriage was going to turn out. And for me, uncertainty sends me on a spiral. I'm a perfectionist. And so, but then I started diving more deeper, and I started seeing that this is tied to things like Buddhism and Taoism. And just trying to convert or anything. I'm just curious. I'm like, you know what? I've never read about Taoism. What is Taoism? So I just started reading about it. No intent to convert or anything. But so I got the Tao Te Ching, you know, which is their holy book. And so I started reading it, and I was like,
there's a lot of wisdom in here.
There's a lot of wisdom. Like, I mean, really, it's just, I mean, the Tao or the way, it's don't resist the way, follow the way. I mean, so then I started thinking about, what were the Christians called before Christians? Followers of the way. Not saying Jesus was a Taoist or anything like that.
Right.
But it's just like, and then also these principles is very in line with following the will of God. Stop resisting the will of God. How God is moving, like go with him. I was like, similar wisdom here.
Yeah.
So then Taoism leads me to Buddhism, which is essentially the same to a degree. But so Taoism, the truth that I pulled out of that was, instead of saying following the Tao, I was just
following the way
of Jesus, right? Following the will of God.
Yeah.
So then Buddhism, their governing principle is detachment, non-attachment. Because my anxiety is what is pushing me down this, because I hate feeling it and I want to stop it. It's not like clinical where I need medicine.
No, I know what
you know what I'm saying? But
thinkers struggle with it, especially future thinkers. Like, I also struggle with it. I only recently discovered that's what it was.
Yeah.
I was like, what is this feeling I have periodically? And they were like, bro, I think you're anxious. And I was like, is that what that is?
Yeah.
I didn't know that's what that was. Yeah.
It's just an uneasiness.
Yeah.
You know,
I'm
not terrified.
I'm not worried. I can still function.
Yeah.
But I'm always like, there's something.
Yep.
Yeah. And it's just nagging in the background.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I go to Buddhism, and Buddhism talks about detaching from the external world. I think it takes it a little bit too far to a degree, where you detach so much to where you can't really relate to people. you know,
I get that part. Yeah.
But it helped me understand in the Christian way of like detaching from the flesh and detaching from, you know, ego and things of that things that are destructive, and not being caught up in everything that happens externally, but just being able to take that step back and view it from a different perspective. And I mean, what you just quoted with, you know, don't worry about tomorrow, even Jesus, I mean, the brother knows he's about to die, and he knows how it's going to happen. something happened in that Garden of Gethsemane where he was anxious.
Yeah.
He was sweating beads of blood. And
it says an angel came to strengthen him.
Yeah.
Yeah. We never read that part. Jesus needed strengthening?
He needed strengthening. And the dope thing, one of the things that blew my mind, Jesus was like, I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
Like,
bro, I know, man. That's the part, right? Like, we act like Jesus is saying empty platitudes. He's in this mug really like, yo, man, is there any other way?
Yeah.
Right? Like
that's the most human moment for Jesus.
I know,
man.
Bro. But we never, that's the point. That you just hit on it. We never let Jesus be human.
Yeah.
We never let him be human. We know he's 100% God, 100% human.
Yeah.
But he can be God all day.
Yeah.
But I'd be like, Jesus learned, right? And they'd be like,
yeah.
They'd be like, he didn't learn. I'd be like, it says he increased in wisdom and favor and stature with God. Increasing in wisdom, by definition, means learning. Right? Like you learn. And so people, right, but we never let him be human in that way. And so I love that you brought that up.
Yeah.
Man. Yeah. All right. So.
Yeah, because I'm like, that's my favorite image of Jesus is him in the Garden of Gethsemane, because that's what I desire. When it comes to my anxiety, it was like, Lord, like I want to get to that point. Whatever Jesus did where he was ready to be like, he was like, he just got up and was like, my accuser's coming. And he was just locked in after that. You know?
He knew what he was like, he's like, all right, this is what it is. Like, man, it's a peace that passes understanding.
Yeah, no, seriously, like he didn't say nothing, didn't defend himself, and he was just this is just what's going to happen. But it was not my will, your will be done. He was like, okay, this is just the way that I have, and he stopped resisting the way, and so I got that kind of just out of Buddhism, and I've read many Buddhist teachers, Thich Nhat Hanh and Jack Kornfield and stuff like that. Not necessarily agreeing with everything that they say, but I'm listening for as I'm trying to find ways to manage my anxiety and to be able, because I do have trouble staying present in the present moment, and a lot of evangelical Christians don't have language for how to stay present. It's just trust God. Well, what does it look like to trust God? Like, can you show me what that looks like? Well, I'm dealing with anxiety. Well, Scripture says be anxious for nothing, but I have it. So like, I don't want it. Like, I don't know anybody that has anxiety. Like, I want this. Yeah. Every single person that has anxiety does not want it.
Right. So you just like be anxious for nothing. I'm like, I know.
Yeah. So how?
I know. I'm anxious now that I'm not getting rid of my anxious. You're not helping. Yeah, that kind of thing.
Yeah. But the thing about it was, and you had made the statement that if you're seeking for truth, you'll land at Jesus. And so I went into Taoism, and then it was almost, I didn't hear anything, but it was almost the Christ in me was like, oh, I talk about that too.
Exactly. He does.
And it's like, oh, so okay, the way, and he's like, remember, like, thy will be done. Like, follow the way. That's what y'all were called before Christians. The way. Christianity. Christian is actually a derogatory term anyway, technically in the old language. And I actually have a pastor friend that says he's no longer saying he's a Christian. He's exclusively saying he's a follower of the way.
And a lot of people are.
I'm chewing on adopting for myself.
Well, I've thought about it, but my thought, honestly, right, especially with a lot of the beliefs I have. A lot of times people have asked me, why do you still call yourself a Christian? And I intentionally hold the term because then I say to myself, I don't want to let somebody who messed the term up get to then define what the term is, right? It's like, yo, man, y'all might have messed this up.
Yeah.
But a Christian quite literally means follower of Jesus.
Yes.
And I'm like, well, I am that right now. You might think that means that I can't fool with sage, right? Sage is a big one right now, right? Which sounds it's just a plant. It's an incense, is how it's used. And
yes, I use it all the time.
And we have found incense in the use of worship.
Yeah.
I'm not even talking about just in the cleaning. I'm talking about in the use of worship.
Yeah.
You in Luke chapter 2, as Jesus being held up, it's at the moment of incense, right? Like, I'm like, so that's such a silly thing. But for a lot of people, that is, right? Yeah. When I say, hey, sage, right? They say, oh, you can't be Christian. They don't do that. And I say, oh, no, you messed it up. I'm not gonna let you take that. You don't get to own that.
Yeah.
I'm a Christian and I do sage, right? And Ancestors is another one. And you can pick all of them, right? It doesn't matter. But for me, that idea, that's why I'm encouraging all of my people who are on journeys like yours. I'm like, don't give them the term.
Yeah.
Don't give it away. Yeah. Right. Keep that term.
Yeah.
I'm asking you.
Yeah.
I'm like, please.
No, man, I hear you.
Please.
And I definitely, will also too, because people just know it.
Yeah.
Right?
People know the term.
They just know the term.
Right.
If I go trying to read
and they know that it links me with Jesus.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
They know that.
They know the term links me with Jesus. Yeah. And so I'm like, oh, I'm not giving this term away.
Yeah.
I'm not giving it away. I'm a follower of the way, and now they're going to be like, well, what is that? And I got to explain. No, I like Christian.
Yeah.
It's clear I follow Jesus.
Yeah.
Now you got to ask me some questions, though, right? Now you got to be like, wait, I thought you were this and that.
Yeah. And man. And just as I was growing, man, going down that path, I started turning more towards, so I went from, just following kind of the way or just the will of God. Then I went to just being able to detach from those negative emotions that I'm feeling in Buddhism, which really, and another thing too, in Buddhism. So Buddhism leads to more, that's kind of a gateway into like the Hindu area.
Yeah.
So Hindu has 1 million gods, so like
I was like,
it's too much.
It is overwhelming.
But their concept of like the ultimate God was dope to me. I think they call him Atman or something like that. But the concept of it, I was like, oh, this kind of gives me like a different way to conceptual. Because everybody, if you say God, everybody has a concept in their head.
Yeah, and most of us in the Western world, that's been shaped for us on what that looks like.
Yeah.
And we didn't get a chance to explore that on our own. And so, I agree with that piece.
Yeah.
And,
and everybody has...
Mine was Yoruba, right?
Yeah.
The African religion Yoruba has this, the god there, right? Olodumare and Olorun, right? Those are kind of...
I went into Yoruba as
okay,
well.
so you know.
So I know you're talking about,
And so for me, it was a beautiful way that they described God and the Orishas, right? It was a really cool, and that's where I think this experience of what you're doing can be really cool, is that the way that we learned God and Jesus in our culture is from a vantage point, right? And I think what people think is if you move, they think you're leaving the truth. And I'm saying, no, I want to look at the truth from a different vantage point, right? Yeah. And so the question that I always tell people, or as they go through this journey, right, even the question, can or should you, I say, I think you can and should, with one caveat, right? I think if you are very familiar with the truth, then you can go looking whatever you want to, because you'll be able to see where it is, right? And you'll be able to see what's not it, right? But if you're not familiar with the truth, right? And so, of course, the next logical question is, what is truth? And I, like I said to you, I just say, look, man, y'all use the word truth. I use the word Jesus, but it's the same thing in my mind, right? So as you are looking for truth, I look for Jesus, right? And I place Jesus. Jesus says, I am the truth. So I just place the word truth in a lot of places you see Jesus. For God so loved the world that he sent his truth into the world, that whosoever believes on it shall not perish but have everlasting life, right? So I'm like, go look for the truth, right? But I do think you have to have familiarity with it in order to look for it in other things.
Yeah. I think if I kind of reversed it, if I started with the other religions, I don't know if I would have landed at Jesus.
I think you will. I told you where I think you will. I told you, if you're genuinely seeking truth, I think that inevitably you ask the question, how do I relate to other people? Yeah. Right?
But I hear you on that. And I think what would have made it hard, looking back, if I kind of started from the other side, coming this way, it was just the culture of Christianity would have made it very hard.
Yeah.
Because I would have probably went on my, okay, that leads to Christianity, and I was like, that's gross.
And Christianity has done this thing where they have mistaken the fact that I think we have comprehensive truth for the fact that we have exclusive truth, right? So Christianity quite literally banged against other religions instead of showing how the truth that they had actually was also found in Jesus, right? So they went against when I think we have comprehensive truth, not exclusive truth.
It's exactly what Paul did in Mars Hill.
Exactly,
you know what I'm saying? And he was just like, oh, your poets have said this. We say this.
Yeah.
There's
exactly
a connection.
Right. Yeah. You guys are worshiping a guy you don't even know. Let me show you. In fact, Acts 17 is my new Great Commission, right? Everybody else has theirs, but there's this verse in there, Acts 17, where it says, from one man, God made all the nations. He appointed their time and their geography on the earth so that they would seek him and find him, even though he is not far from any of us. And so by definition, he's saying, yo, I created everybody. I laid their geographies. I laid their time, all of that. Why? So that they would look for me, right? I put truth out here. It's out here, right? I laid where they're going to be. I did that so they would look for me and find me because I'm not far from any of us, right? And so the idea that we have exclusive truth, the Bible itself does not even support, right? In fact, you know, the Bible quotes other books, right? You got David talking about, hey, teach everybody from the tribe of Judah the song from the book of Jasher. And then it quotes the book of Jasher for like the next like 8 verses.
Quotes some book that's not even in the scriptures.
Right. And so that's why I'm like, hey, scripture itself does not claim to have exclusive truth.
Yeah.
Now, I think Jesus for me is comprehensive truth. Right. And so any truth you might find.
Well, I think you think when him making the statement, I am the truth, that's an exclusive statement?
No, I think it's a comprehensive statement.
Walk me through that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if Jesus says, I am the truth, right? So if somebody goes over and says, I have found the truth of mindfulness.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
Do you think Jesus is saying, oh, that's not truth? Or do you think he's saying, oh, yeah, that's part of me?
I would say he would, if he is the truth and you have found something that is true in that, he would say that's part of me. Yeah, part of me.
Right? That's comprehensive truth.
Okay.
Not exclusive truth. So you can find truth wherever you want.
So when you hear, what do you mean, how do you define exclusive truth? That'll help me understand where you're
we have a truth, we have the truth, and no one else has it.
Okay. So you would not say Jesus says, I have the truth, nobody else has it. You would disagree with that statement.
I would say Jesus says, I am the truth. Right? That's what he quite literally, when Pilate asked him,
okay,
what's truth?
I'm starting to come around the block.
Yeah.
I'm coming around the block with you.
So okay. I would say, Jesus would say, if you find truth, that is me. Right? That is me.
Okay.
And so I would say, if you find truth, I don't believe that you have to let go of a truth.
I see what you're saying.
Right? So if you came from Buddhism and you found that mindfulness helped to put you at peace, helps you to commune with the Spirit of God, whatever it is, I don't then come to you and be like, you're wrong. I come to you and say, what are you getting from that? And you say, oh, there's peace in my soul, there's connection with God, things like that. And I say, oh, you know, Jesus also talked about peace in your soul and connection with God, right? Let's look at what he said, right? Because what you are looking for, the truth you are looking for over here is also in Jesus, right? Because he's comprehensive, right? So then you go over here and you say, man, I find that being connected to the legacy, right? We'll use ancestors, right? I find that being connected to those who came before me helps me to feel empowered in my journey in life, right? And I say, so you feel like by connecting with them, you feel like you can better walk your life out. And they say, yeah. I say, and that feels like a truth to you. They'd be like, yeah. I'd be like, oh, interesting. You know, in Matthew 17, Jesus talked with his ancestors. And they'd be like, what do you mean? I'd be like, well, it says that Moses and Elijah appeared and talked with him, right? I don't care if you define ancestors by biology or ethnicity or by legacy or by truth or by whatever they count.
Right? Yeah, I mean, or even if you look in Hebrews, 10 and 11, I mean, you have cloud of witnesses and that whole, what they call the Hall of Faith,
right?
You know?
And so I say, what you were looking for there, it's also in Jesus.
I see
right?
what you're saying.
And so I say, if you found that truth, I'd be like, okay, You found a truth? Can I show you where it is in Jesus? Oh, you found a truth? Oh yeah, let me show you where that is in Jesus. Instead of saying, oh, no, you don't have nothing. You don't have no truth. None of this is true. You only need this one. And I'm like, oh, God didn't feel that way.
Okay, so when you say exclusive truth, you're basically saying a person that says anything else that's not this is a lie.
Is not true, right? And I think that's how Christians have approached truth, right? Just historically, that's how we've done it, right? I mean, we've gone as far as to, I mean, I'm not gonna say we. Those Christians went as far as to kill people.
I ain't never did that.
I ain't never done that either. Yeah, make that clear.
I've never done that.
Make that part clear. Right, that's what I'm saying. But they did, right? Because they misunderstood, right? I think that's what I'm saying. I think the beauty of the verse in Acts 17 to me, or even Romans chapter 1, is that God says, yo, I have made myself known in creation. You should just know, right? God has hid truth here.
I see. Okay.
Right? It's everywhere, right? Yeah. It's not Jesus only. It's all in Jesus. Yeah, right. You find it somewhere else. If it's real truth, I should be able to show you where Jesus did or said something like that, right? But it is not Jesus only, right? And the beauty of that, of hearing it, is the people, right, for years, right, for decades, generations, proper understanding of God flowed through the Jewish people and flowed through the Middle Eastern people. And then we all of a sudden hit the Reformation, and we like, nope. Proper doctrine only comes from the Germans, right?
And I think the reason that happened, because if you notice, all the religions that I was kind of following are Eastern. You know, Eastern. Is because Western religion or Western thought is up here. I mean, Plato, Socrates. You know what I'm saying? Like all of the great philosophers and all of the great academics, the Enlightenment. I mean, we talked about that earlier. The West is very big on rationale.
And here's where I think sometimes examples help for that, right? So when you say that, people who haven't studied it all don't understand this at all. But an example that really helped me was, I was reading an article from a Japanese writer, because I got really big. I didn't go Eastern. I actually went Ethiopian.
Okay.
Right? Because only non-colonized African, that's where my people came from, Africa. So I was like, let me go down there, right? But there was an Asian and an Ethiopian writer writing a research article, and they said, yo, it blows our mind that the Western world thinks that facts and truth are the same thing. And I was like, wait, what? And they was like, yeah, they think because something's not factual, it's not true. And I was like, I don't understand what you're saying, because we don't think like that. And they was like, think Aesop's fables. They said, there is no turtle. There is no hair, but the truth of the story is very real.
Right.
Right. And that's how they think. Right. Whereas we think.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Right.
Like,
you know what I mean?
if it didn't
occur, it's not true.
Yeah.
And I'm saying, oh, they don't think that way.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what you find in the Eastern.
Yeah.
Right.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. And I think the reason why I was finding a lot of peace studying Eastern traditions is because they have a good way of attaching to the body and attaching to the real live experience that we're dealing with.
Okay.
I think whereas on the West, it's make sense of it and then just go forth from there. But over in the East, like that's why you have a lot of ritual in the East, because it's a very tangible, embodied type of spirituality.
Yeah.
You know, that's why, you know, in Hinduism, yoga is a big way that they connect with their deities, is because each movement is a symbol of a god or something like that.
And our religion is cognitive only.
It's cognitive only.
Right.
Or
the idea that you do something with your body means something.
But one thing, okay, when I left though in the black church, but the black church is very embodied.
Oh yeah, black church.
Is very embodied, bro.
Always, yeah.
And I mean, it's to the point where like your preaching has to incorporate your body. I still got some of those elements in me, you know.
I think you should.
Yeah, it's like you're preaching, or it's the expressive worship, the dancing, the shouting, the
catching the spirit,
all of that, man. Or in the Catholic Church, it is the standing and kneeling and the taking of more than just a little styrofoam cracker.
It's the integration between the body and spirituality. And when I always learned in Christianity, body, soul, spirit, I always learned in 3 circles, right? You got your body on the outside, you got your soul, and you got your spirit. And what you find when you begin to actually look at like ancient cultures and even cultures that aren't Western is they have more of like a tangled ball of yarn description, right? So it's kind of like you can't pull the soul without the body, right? You can't pull the spirit. They're linked, right? Whereas ours is a very neat circle, right?
It was what's the term? Duality, I think it was.
Duality, yeah.
Whereas in the East, you don't have a soul, you are.
Yeah.
Like, that's what you are.
Yeah.
Like, and to your point, like, you know, especially the biblical authors, like they can't separate the soul from the body.
They don't.
You know,
they don't, right? Well, Jesus healed people. He cast out demons, the person got healed, right? And in their mind, the physical and the spiritual were linked in that way, right? That's what I love when Paul is like, yo, there's a thorn in my flesh, but it's sent by the devil.
Yeah.
And I'll be like, wait, what? Like you feel it in your body, but it's sent, but you feel a spiritual interaction with it. That's how they thought.
Yeah.
And we've done this weird kind of separation, so it makes us read scripture differently, right? I've always wondered, or I've been wondering lately, I'm like, man, now that I think about it, if the body and soul is interacted in that way, and that's how they understand it, when Jesus says things like, hey, sometimes you cast a demon out and he comes back 7 times stronger, I'm like, is that cancer? Right? You see what I'm saying? Like, we can start doing those kinds of things when we see the interaction between, because that's how cancer works, right? You think you got rid of it and that mother comes back 7 times stronger.
Yeah.
Is that how they might have thought through those kinds of things, right? It's doors that open up when you
I heard a guy, I can't remember his name. I need to start remembering people's names so I can cite them. But he had said, somebody was like, well, when Jesus came, how come so many like demons was just coming out of nowhere? And how come we don't see that today?
Yeah.
And he had said he thinks it's because it was unique for the time because of what was happening. He says if Jesus was who he says he is, you have God in the flesh walking upon the earth. So if Jesus is this big, the supreme ultimate spiritual entity walking on the earth, he's gonna cause a spiritual stir.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, I don't disagree with that.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, so
I don't disagree with it, but I would challenge it.
Yeah.
Right? Because here's what I think. I think the difference is that they believed in at least 6 senses. We only believe in 5, right? So they practiced using their 6th sense in a way that we haven't even started with, right?
Because, I rock with that,
Yeah, because one of the things I've been cracking up lately, if you read the story of Mary Magdalene, it says, it's like, oh, Mary Magdalene, out of which was cast 7 demons. I said, wait, they counted? We don't even know where 1 is.
Yeah.
But they told you how many.
Can we even recognize?
That's what I'm saying. We can't find 1.
Yeah.
And they're counting. 7 came out of her.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, they have an ability to do something.
That's why, man,
that we have not exercised our muscle to do, right?
Yeah.
Because when we went, and this is that discussion we were having earlier, the science discussion, right? When we went, oh, knowledge is only 5 senses. Then by definition, if you have a 6th sense, if you have one, right? We're saying, number 1, you don't have it. And number 2, you can't use it, right? So can you imagine what would happen though, right? If I found out today, I had a button on the back of my leg, right? And if I pushed it, it made me run 10 miles faster, right? Then I would start pushing that button a lot. And then I'd start figuring out what conditions affect that button. And then I might find out, wait, there's a button on my knee too. There's one on my elbow. Wait, there's buttons everywhere. I didn't know, right? Well, that only starts to happen if you get to explore the button, right? But if they tell you, you don't even have a button, right? You can't know there's 7 demons because that's not 5 senses. Then you never even get to explore with that.
Yeah.
And I'm saying, what would happen? You got to understand, they explored with that for generations, right?
Yeah.
And then we hit the Enlightenment age, and they was like,
done.
That's not. We don't do that. That's not science.
I think I had talked to a friend about that. I said, man, you know, the ancient world, everybody had this deep spiritual knowledge,
right?
And that was just all fake,
right?
You know, like every country you go to, it is some old ruined temple,
right?
And I mean, deep spirituality. And it's like, you don't think they was tapping into something for real? They were just doing this because?
The idea is that somehow That's what I'm saying. We know people don't do things that don't work.
Yeah.
Right? So the idea is, oh, they were doing this even though they knew it didn't work.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, so you think they were idiots?
Yeah.
You think they were idiots.
Yeah.
That's what you think. Honestly, you have to believe that they were idiots to believe they were doing a bunch of stuff.
Nah, man, they were
that
smarter.
did not work, right? And I'm like, oh, what if we gave them the benefit of the doubt for once, right? What if we said, hey, when the Egyptians seem to be really focused on the afterlife, maybe they knew something.
Man.
Right? Maybe they knew something, right? And that changes the way you kind of look at all of antiquity, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I start saying, okay, well, here's what I know for a fact then. They knew how to count demons and you don't, right?
Yeah.
They knew how to count them and you don't.
Yeah.
So you could say whatever you want to,
yeah.
But I would say, at least in this area of knowledge, we are walking around not knowing where a single demon is, getting whooped on constantly. I don't know what kind of war you think you fighting. Mm-hmm. You don't know where a demon is. Right?
Yeah.
Right? But they knew where they could count how many.
You know, man, my homies that have done overseas missions in the modern era, you know, I don't know why I said that. Like I got a homie in the ancient era.
Yeah. It'd be dope if you did. You got an ancient era. And I'm gonna let you finish with this because Mr. Nate gave me the signal. So
we're done already.
I know, it's crazy, isn't it? We're having a good conversation.
Okay.
Man. I know. And so this is our final thought right here. Bring it out, man.
But it was, you know, they say in other countries though that sixth sense is more exposed or more open. You know, where they actually see stuff like that, you know, but over here it's just it's just because we're so cerebral, you know. And to my original point, man, it was when you said finding truth, to the original question, can you find truth in other religions? I believe you can find the truth is Jesus. That's where I stay. That's where I started. The truth is Jesus, but I feel that other religions can expound upon that a bit. I don't, not that I believe in that those other religions are truth, but when I seen things like when I started studying mindfulness and the way in Taoism, and it led me into non-attachment in Buddhism, and I started even self-inquiry in certain Hindu religions, like that helped kind of explain and really connect me to my real lived experience, you know, and it was able to take everything that I had in my head and it finally brought it into my heart. And Jesus at that point, when I became so real.
So amazing.
So real.
Bro.
Yeah.
He becomes so beautiful, like overwhelmingly beautiful.
Yeah.
When you do it, right? Yeah. And so I'm in agreement, but I think you're right. My one caveat would be, hey, if you're worried, right, or you're worried about people doing it, I would say, then make sure they're very familiar with the truth before they go. Yeah. Right. So I would say, if you are unfamiliar with the truth, don't do this, right? Right? But if you are familiar with the truth, let's go out and do it, man. I think you can, and of course for me, like I said, the truth's name is Jesus. That's its name. I mean, those are synonyms in my mind. And so I say follow the truth wherever it leads. And I think that you'll find whatever you find, I can show you exactly where it is in Jesus. Yeah.
I want to say one more thing before we get.
Please.
Just to those watching that are like, oh, they're saying dangerous stuff and don't do this. You know, if you know somebody or you yourself are going down this path and you know somebody that they're studying other religions, ask them the why and walk with them through that. Find ways to continue to point them to Jesus as they unearth something in the particular belief system. Say, hey, you know, that Jesus also speaks about that, you know, but also calm down. Yeah. Don't get scared or terrified because
Jesus
at the end of the day,
doesn't need protection.
He doesn't need protection.
And I'm telling you, I went at him. Yeah. I went at him full force. How could I prove he didn't exist? How could I prove he wasn't truth? And I'm telling you, he won. Yeah. So I'm like, yo, he's
gonna win out every time.
He's gonna win, right? Yeah. So you're right, right? This isn't dangerous, but I would say if you're not familiar, get to know Jesus, right? Study him, because I believe that's the truth, and I believe I don't think anybody in the world, I don't know anybody in the world who say, don't you look at Jesus, he be like, all right. I don't know anybody who do that, so I'm sorry. I said last word, but you got me excited, and so I said more. I said more words.
That's all good.
Closing thought. Give it to us. All right.
Yeah.
I know you already did, but give it any other one. Any other closing thought?
I think just don't be, and if you're somebody that was like me and you are wanting a more real experience, I told a brother today, you know, the question that always centers me is if the scriptures are true, right? Mm-hmm. So for me, it's like, if what I read in this book is true, then that means that there is a God that reigns over everything, and that he loves us so much that he has incarnated into this human, and this human lived the perfect life that we could never live on our best day. And he went into death, and he is the first one to rise and sit at the right hand of the Father. And because of that love, he has given all of that to us. Like, you can relax. Yeah. If you feel like you have to work, many people still go down this deconstruction path because they feel like they can't keep all the rules. You don't give up keeping the rules.
Don't keep the rules.
You cannot. You can keep some of them, but some of them are going to be hard for you to keep, and you will always mess up. But there has been one who has been sent, and he has credited his righteousness to us, and that is how we are treated by God forever and ever. We are treated as if we are Jesus. And for me, that's where I stay. And everything got to come back to that.
Dope. Dope, bro. I dig it.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for being on the show.
Absolutely, man.
I appreciate it, bro.
For sure, man. I would love to come back, man.
I'm gonna have to have you back.
It was about too fast, man.
It did, man. Like, we barely got started.
Yeah.
So, thanks for being with me.
Absolutely.
Yeah.